Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, commodities ETFs that I follow, and I'll interject my financial opinions as I go. If you need any help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I talk about individual companies, entry points, um, portfolio allocation. You can see what I'm doing, what I'm buying, if I'm selling, and what's in my portfolio. So let's dive in here, see what's going on today in the markets. So we've got the DXY, and to me, still looks like the momentum's to the downside. I don't see a strong bounce here yet. So I would say the momentum's to the downside, and that's what could potentially continue, which means most likely that yields will probably drop alongside DXY. So yields and DXY kind of move together. The 2-year yield, again, we don't have a strong bounce here. A lot of the times what you get is you get a reversal candlestick, then you wait and you watch for the bounce. This bounce is pretty weak. Not saying it can't reverse, but it's sitting next to the Eiffel Tower here of the of red. So generally momentum's down, it's slamming down, and this is kind of a flag pattern or something like that, and this will probably break to the downside because it doesn't look like it's basing out. There's a lot of momentum behind that impulse move lower. So I think we could see sideways to lower movement in the 2-year yield. And that goes for all of these at the current time. It looks like we could still work our way lower. Or if we go sideways, it could try to base out here. So sideways to lower is kind of my thought in the short term for all these. The 30-year yield looks a little better. Looks like it's putting in a bullish engulfing there. But again, I think downward momentum, and maybe we can go sideways or lower depending on what we see over the next week or so. That's kind of my take on it. TYX TNX ratio, again, I think this is ready to go lower. We squeezed up into this corner here. We broke out to the downside. We did a retest here, and that I think could potentially head lower, which means the yield curve, the 30 and the 10-year will invert against the 30. So it could go down more than the 30. Bond prices pulling back a little bit, but this still looks good to go higher over the longer term. Big green candlesticks, small red candlesticks. There's hardly any red in there. So I think bond prices will go higher. Yields will go lower along with the DXY. That's my take on it, which means that you're going to get a little bit of a tailwind depending on how big the drops are in gold. The 2 and 10 still inverted and still holding in there at this time for the 2 and 10 yield curve. We are vastly inverted way up here. Kind of a funky looking structure up here of what the heck is going on. This screams to me like there's some sort of crap going on, like yield curve manipulation, or I don't know what the heck is going on here. We've got gold up $5, and again, we're sitting on top of everything. We're on top of support, and top of support, path of least resistance is higher. Silver, we're up against that resistance line, that trend line that's coming across here on the longer term, this trend line there, and we're trying to break out of all of that stuff. Silver can run. You get a lower dollar, lower yields. It's got some legs on it. That's all I'm going to say. It's got some legs, and it can move. This thing is Bo Jackson when it wants to be and when it needs to be. Platinum, moving sideways, but again, this still looks good to go higher. We're sitting on top of breakouts, and I think we'll just continue to work our way up when the dollar falls. Dollar and yields falling, I think will be tailwinds behind all this, and palladium looks fantastic. Not even that much of a sell-off today, down $9 after a monster move. So that still looks good to go higher. I'm not saying that it's going to do it immediately. We could have a couple of down days or a consolidation or something next to it, but it looks like to me that this is trying to bottom and work its way on up. This is short covering here. XEU to gold ratio. Um, about flat. It's down 0.01. It's flat today. And again, we're still underneath these big resistance lines that we want to break. We want to get above that for the gold and silver mining companies to really take off. And I think that will occur if we get lower yields and lower dollar. I think that will occur. CRB index, we are slightly higher today, and it looks like it's trying to put in a bottom and work its way on up. Very much driven by oil. We've got CRB to S&P 500, and that does look like it's trying to put in a bottom here, and we'll see if that actually bottoms, but had a nice little bounce there, and we'll see if we can go sideways to slightly higher in the ratio. GDX slightly lower. Still looks good to go up. Still looks good. And GDXJ still looks good. Small little candlesticks. I call those bloody noses. Big green candlesticks. Small selling pressure right at resistance. Still looks good to go higher in all these. SILJ as well. We're right up against that trend line, resistance line. Still looks good. Not much selling pressure. Not huge reversal candlesticks or anything like that going on. Crude oil up 1.67%. I wish it finished a little bit stronger towards that closing. So we came up strong and then we sold off throughout the day a little bit. So momentum came back off. We are still above this support level. So what we did here in crude oil, if you kind of back out a little bit, is we're putting in what I think is a double bottom. Let me back out a little bit more so you guys can see it. So here is this is on a really short term 30-minute chart. Here's your double bottom. This is your peak there. You got your line going across, your lead-in pattern, your double bottom. You get stuck sometimes here. You break out, you do a retest, and then I think we're going to go on higher. So crude oil looks good, and I would be looking at energy-related investments probably right where it's at. TTF up 6.5%. And again, momentum's to the downside. We'll see if we can turn this thing around sideways or if we can try to work our way back up. Nat gas, another one. I think we're trying to work our way sideways here. So just give it some time, but there's a lot of momentum behind this move. Lots of selling pressure. And again, this could very well continue lower depending on what we see over the next few trading sessions. XOP, yeah, you know me, small downward momentum loss day. We were up 0.5%, but it's hanging in there. We're up against a little bit of resistance, and we're underneath that big neckline. Be patient here, guys. It'll pay you. Trust me. It'll pay you over time. Just it's going to take some time. OIH down a little bit. Not a huge selling pressure day. I think it's trying to turn around here and work its way on up. And we're moving in this upward channel. When we break that upward channel, that's when the fun begins. That's when the fun begins. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust up 1.5%. We are in the corner of this rising wedge. Are we going to break to the upside or downside? I don't know, but we will find out here very soon. We will find out. Generally, falling wedges break to the downside, which would mean that we might have a little bit more of a pullback. But I am not stating that that is 100% in the bag. Uranium futures pricing has been ripping it, and maybe we actually accelerate to the upside. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. URA up 2.21%, a little bit of a wick at the top. I think it's just trying to figure out where URA is going to go. Same with URNM, a little bit of a wick at the top, still above support. And URNJ's got the same thing, still above support, a little bit of a wick at the top, a little bit of selling pressure throughout that day, but still above support, still looking good. So it can still go higher. Just be patient. TAN down 2.2, but still looks good to go higher. Not much selling pressure, no reversal candlesticks, still looks good. COPX, no reversal candlesticks, just two little bloody noses, ready to go higher over time. Lithium, same thing. Higher, same setup, looks fantastic. REMX, same setup, looks fantastic to go higher. Just little bloody noses today. S&P 500 just working its way up slightly, still barely moving. Same with NASDAQ. And we're coming up to these resistance lines of these channels and whatnot. And the resistance line that goes across here is going to be coming into play soon as well. KRE down 1.85%. We've broken out of this kind of double bottom pattern, and we could come back before heading on higher. So it still looks good to go higher with time. We may get a little bit of selling pressure in the short term, very short term. Emerging markets still looks good to go higher. We're waiting for the dollar to drop and those yields to drop. XHB still looks good to go higher. Dollar drop, yields drop, mortgage drop. SIA wouldn't want to be in XHB. Moo down a lot more today. Looks like they got a dividend or something going on, but still looks good to go higher. Disregard this day there. Copper down a little bit, still above support, and it still looks good. Maybe we're just throwing in a little kind of pattern there that we're going to work our way on up. We've got iron ore down a little bit, but that still looks fantastic for a move higher. This is just a flag pattern. It's a continuation pattern to the upside. It's that small down candlestick, so we're going on up over time. Aluminum up 1.88. This thing is rocketing, guys. Look at that. Looks like short selling covers or something, but we're going higher. It looks good. Maybe it's ready to break out of this, and this is a false breakout, which gives the slingshot. The slingshot means that everybody got positioned down here short because they're like, oh, I broke to the downside. And then, boom, slingshot in their face. Baltic Dry Index. We've got a little bit of downward pressure, but again, I think we're going higher in it. Higher, higher, higher. We've got big buying pressure, pullback. Big buying pressure, pullback. We're going on up. That's my guess. Newcastle Coal down 1%. This is basing here. I think it looks fantastic for a good entry point. It's waiting for natural gas to get its act together and for natural gas producers to stop pumping it full of nat gas. But yeah, it'll work its way on up eventually. Give it time. Bitcoin's up 1.27% at the moment. Still looks good. It's just a continuation pattern. Most likely going to break to the upside and rip it. Ethereum also looking good. It's a falling wedge to some degree, and it will rip it to the upside, is what my guess would be by looking at these charts. We're above all support. It still looks good to go on up. So that's what I'm seeing in the markets right now. Give me a thumb up for the content. Don't forget to do that, guys. Help me out. But overall, looks pretty good across the board. Oil looks like it's trying to go on up. Natural gas, a little bit, the only one that's kind of lagging at the current time. Copper sitting on top of support. Iron ore looks good. Aluminum looks good. Baltic Dry Index is fine. Newcastle Coal's basing up. It all looks good. So find your favorite companies, watch them, look for entry points, and just be patient. That's what I would be doing. Catch you guys later. This is Finding Value.